Hello everybody, welcome to another live coding session. Today it's gonna be quite short, so I thought it would be nice to do something very small that can be done in that window of time. So I picked something that I was eyeing out for a longer time, which is the enter key hint property in HTML. And this enter key hint property allows you to adjust the behavior of the virtual keyboard on a mobile device, so that instead of the enter key, it shows you go or search or send or whatever you pick from this short list of enum values. And it's something we don't support yet, specifically on WebAssembly, even though we do support it on the classic mobile targets like Android, iOS, where you can use a platform-specific API to override the default behavior. So this time I would like to do this same thing and add support for it on WebAssembly as well, so that you can influence what is the visual behavior of a virtual keyboard enter key on your WebAssembly Uno platform application. So that's gonna be the main focus of today's live coding, and I will get started right away. I already created a branch for the enter key hint, feature work. So I will open the WebAssembly Uno solution filter. And actually, while I'm showcasing this work, I will also show you how to use the dev tunnels feature in Visual Studio, so that you can preview your mobile specific, or not, basically your all your website development or web development on a mobile device, because normally you can launch a ASP.NET Core application or WebAssembly application on your local machine, but it's not that easy to test it on a mobile device if you have some specific behavior for mobile, or you want to test how your website is working on a mobile device. It's not that easy to do unless you are using dev tunnels, which allow you to connect to your local debugging session from mobile device, external mobile device, or mobile device on your local network, for example. And then you can just browse that site and see how everything behaves on your mobile device, which is pretty nice. And it's quite a new feature. It wasn't built into Visual Studio, and now it's part of the Visual Studio installation, which is pretty nice and very useful actually. So that's something I will show you during this stream. So let's get started. Right, so here I have the WebAssembly solution open already. So one important thing that we need to do is I'll first check how the implementation is done for the mobile target. So that's iOS and Android. So we can mimic kind of how that API looks and make it look similar or make it behave similarly. So I will search for text box iOS, for example, and that was not the right one. Text box iOS CS. So there's a text box, so iOS specific text box code file, and I will search for a place where we do this specifically. So I think, yeah, that's the right one. So return key type, and this is a iOS specific property, iOS specific dependency property that you can set, and then it changes the the appearance of the return key, which is the enter key on the virtual keyboard. All right, so what that means is, oh, there's something here. Should be fine. All right, so what that means, what we'll do here is that we'll approach the problem on WebAssembly in a similar fashion. I will just check Android quickly here. So there's IME options, property, and that's quite possibly what influences that button as well. Input scope, exit, return. Let's see. Or maybe I will. The best thing to do is to search for how it's called on Android. So Android enter key. Well, customization. Yes, I've searched for it already. So it's yeah, IME options. So we have a general property for IME options there as well. So it's very similar approach in case of Android. So I will do the same thing, almost the same thing on WebAssembly, but the tricky thing here is that in case of WebAssembly, well, WebAssembly is a little bit different from Android and iOS because it doesn't have its own specific kind of compilation target. It has .NET 7 as the target currently. In the future, it might be .NET 8 browser, but that's not yet there. So for .NET 7 at least, we need to compile WebAssembly along with Skia and then target the specific platform, the specific WebAssembly platform at runtime by switching the assemblies. It's a kind of complicated process, but the point here is that if I write a specific property only for WebAssembly, it will not be visible for users of UNO platform. It will be visible in case of, it will be visible inside of the UNO platform solution, but it will not be accessible outside of it. So it's not going to be accessible for users themselves. So that wouldn't be definitely wouldn't be great. So instead, we need to put that implementation in a cross-runtime file, which will be shared across WebAssembly and Skia. And in case of Skia, we will not be implementing the functionality itself. The property will be there, but it will not be usable. But it still will be accessible, so people will be able to set it, even though it will not be doing anything. And that's probably quite fine, because in case of Skia, there is likely no virtual keyboard happening at all, except for Tizen, but we don't have the proper support for Tizen yet. So I think for now it's fine to have it as a cross-runtime property that's gonna be only implemented in case of WebAssembly. So I will create text box cross-runtime. And in here, I will just do the necessary hoops here. So I need to change the namespace to match the Xbox. I need to make this partial. And I will create the new dependency property. I will, maybe just to simplify things, I will reuse the code from iOS here. I'll just copy here the whole thing. Oh, not like this. And instead of UI return key type, I will create a new enum for this, which will be called enter key hint. And it's going to be again compiled only for cross runtime. Right, so this small enum is going to give us the possible values of that enter key hint, and I will take that from here. So the possible values are enter, done, go, next, previous. Let me just verify. What's the default value? Default value is probably okay. Previous. Then it's search, sent, and I will check the default value probably in some kind of JS fiddle. So let's create a input ID test input type text. Right, so we have the input field, and now I will do document get element by ID. And then I will do enter key hint. All right, and I will put it as the text of that input. Right, I have to do it like this. So var input could work, and yeah, it's not working because it was happening too early, I'm guessing. Right, so it's not there. So why do we, or actually let's do it even simpler. Can do this in the console, and I should be able to do this here. Oh, it's not defined. Okay. Well. Let's see. Went enter key hint. So now document get elements by tag name, whatever, some div 0 enter key hint. Okay, this one. So by default the enter key hint is empty. So default, let's call it default. Right, so instead of this, I will put enter key hint. Call this property enter key hint, or like this. Use name off so it's more sturdy. And yes, I will also call enter key hint changed partial. And then now I will implement this partial method inside of the WebAssembly specific file. key hint. Right, let's just make some cleanup so it's more in line with our formatting style. Right. Now I'm not sure if I should put it in this namespace or rather make it Uno UI XAML controls. Maybe that's more appropriate actually. And now this method, let's implement it in the text box WebAssembly partial. So I will do partial this, and now let's do the enter key hint value. I will switch enter key hint switch, and it's gonna be for the default value. I will just do default. I will just do empty string because they mentioned that the default value is empty string, and for the rest of it I will do enter key hint toString to lower invariant. So this will give me the lower case version of that enum value. Yes, and for this toString actually should have, I think G is the formatting string. Yes, G is the format string. Yeah, all right, so come on. IntelliSense is not very fast. Huh. So enum is defined. So we want to make sure that the value that was provided by the user is actually defined. So if the value is defined, we handle it like this, and for the last case, for the fallback, we just throw argument out of range. So, okay, so now we have the string value that we want to set on the element, and finally the last step is to actually set it onto that input field. And now what's the input field? Text box view. I will store that value actually here. So here we store that value, make sure that we have it. Enter key hint, okay, hint. And now move this out of this method and make it a separate method. Because in some cases, we could set that enter key hint before the actual input field was even created. So we want to apply it in two places. So here, apply key hint. And we do the same call. Probably here. Let's see, do we have a return key changed? Where is it called here? Ah, okay, so there's a partial for initialized properties, so I will put it there. Initialized properties partial, so I will put it here and I will call the apply enter key hint. So maybe like this, that makes sense. So if the user hasn't adjusted it, we don't have to apply it ourselves. So if it's not an enter key hint, we just return, and otherwise we apply that value, and we do this quite easily by using set attribute, but we will set it for the text box view, or text box view is not view, or text box view, because we need to apply it directly to that input element. So that should be enough. And yeah, I think there's nothing else to it, actually. So we only need to test this works. So I will, let's see if there's a test for this functionality on iOS or not. So we seem to have this only in the code directly, so I guess there is no test per se. Just improve the code a little bit. I prefer to use name of wherever possible, because when you do a rename later, it automatically takes care of keeping the name of the property and the string in sync. So I will probably create a simple sample that verifies this. And I will create it in the text box folder. Yeah, maybe this one will be a simple one. Yeah, nothing too fancy there. Yes, seems fine. I will just copy the sample, name it, enter key hint. And just do some renames, because instead of input simple, we want to have input enter key hint, and we want the same thing for this file. And we will need one text box. And underneath there will be a combo box. Is a combo box? Yeah, it could be a combo box, yes. Or maybe, yeah, list view, maybe it's gonna be more appropriate. Or maybe let's just do it in Visual Studio so we have proper IntelliSense. This is annoying. So enter key hint. We have used this one as the template, sort of. So the reason why I'm doing is in Visual Studio Code and outside of Visual Studio is the shared projects in Visual Studio are completely broken. And so if you add a new file into a shared project, it will not be updated and it will not actually be added. So instead of that, I'm just adding them manually in the folder and then adding them in this proj items file, which is very annoying, but unfortunately Microsoft hasn't fixed this issue yet, and hopefully we'll be getting rid of the shared project template, the shared project in Visual Studio, in the UNO platform solution itself soon, so it shouldn't be a problem quite soon. The reason that we didn't get it over here yet is that it's quite complex to remove it from the sample application, but the new UNO platform templates for new applications don't include shared projects. It's just a class library, which is completely fine. So yeah. Oh, hello, MCNets. How are you doing? Right, so we have this done. Discard. So somewhere here should we have, oh, text box, not text box, but input, whatever. Let's just rename it. It should be simpler to do that. Ah, holidays. You're traveling or just having time off? Ah, okay. Any particular location? some abroad or just within the country? Right. So, yeah, here we go. I'm doing this very simply without using MVVM or data binding extensively, because it's just a sample, so nothing. It doesn't have to be too extremely complex. So let's do the implementation part. So in the back code behind, we do the property of enter key hints. So it's gonna be enter key hint, enter key hints. Yes, but maybe let's do it differently. Enum get values, enter key hint to array. So we get all that values, all those values there. And now the method on key hint, almost set hint click, and we will take the test text box. Oh, like let's do it like this. So where enter selected value will be enter key hints combo box selected item, and we will then use test text box enter key hint selected value, and that should be everything. One important thing here is that this code is only available on WebAssembly, so I will do if wasm and if, and that should be all good. So yeah, improvisation, that's also fun. You know, you get surprises, and that's good. All right, so I think we have everything we needed. So what I will do is that I will run my dev tunnel here. So this feature called dev tunnels enables you to create a outside accessible URL that points to your local debug, and then you can access that site and access it from external devices, not only from the local device. So that's very cool and useful. And I will use it here to test this functionality on my mobile device. Of course, this will not compile outside of WebAssembly. I will need to adjust the code a little bit more, but yeah, I will need to add WebAssembly specific here so that the stack panel doesn't show up on mobile devices and Skia. But that's for later. So now let's first test it on WebAssembly. Okay. Right. Prepare my mobile device here. Okay, dev tunnel is starting, so hopefully it will launch successfully. Right, all good. So I will open that file or that URL on my mobile device. Oh, right. Because I closed that window, it also terminated that app. That's a little bit annoying. Oh, F sharp. Okay, that's outside of the comfort zone, definitely. And it's very interesting language, definitely. Many people love it, and it allows you to write many things very beautifully. It's very interesting language for sure. And I'm not sure if the Uno platform has some F sharp support. I think there was some kind of Uno platform where F sharp attempt, or at least proof of concept. Yeah. The functional programming is very different, definitely. So it's not surprising that it's tricky. Right. Come on. Interesting. The tunnel is not launching, but it's probably because I have wrong URL here. Ah, that's it. Wrong port. So it should be this one. Oh yeah. Here we go. Almost there. Now it's complaining about something. Ah! Almost launched, and now it's... I just reloaded. Just one more moment here, and we should be good to go. Hello, hello, Vladimir. Right. So hopefully it should be running correctly now. Text box. Just launching the sample. Let's see first in here. Text box, enter key hint. Come on. Text box, enter key hint, and right. So it's launching here. On Windows it's working fine. That's good. There's no error, and the enter key hint seems to be set correctly as well. Yes, so it's being set. Now I'm not sure why it's not showing up on the mobile device. That's pretty odd. Something is not working correctly. Huh. It's very weird because the endpoint should be fine, but I'm getting errors during launch. Alright, maybe it's because I'm on iOS Express. Maybe this one will help switching to the application itself. that works usually better with dev tunnels. So maybe that will help. Okay, let's go. So this is running now. Let's run this on the mobile device. Now that seems to be better, no errors this time, so maybe that was the problem there. Yes, seems to be launching fine now. Previously I got some errors during the startup on the boot screen, so probably something didn't load correctly, and that might have been because I was running against IIS Express instead of the application itself. So hopefully now we will get the application up and running. Okay, we have the application. This phone link really shows how tall the screen of a Galaxy Fold is, which is not very efficient. I would prefer it more wide and less tall. Like something like the Surface Duo is more usable. But unfortunately, Microsoft did not do a new version of Duo so far, and they are not planning to apparently, which is super sad and super unnice. So now we have done here. Let's see, next. Maybe this. Let's try search. Okay, so you can see that now when I change the value to search, we have now the search icon, and if I change the value to something like done, it will be something different. So we have like the enter button here for some reason. Probably Android doesn't have the specific value for done. Send, let's see, send. Now this is a send icon there. So you can see that the enter key hint is now working properly. So it adjusts the behavior of the input button so that you have something specific to the operation that you want to accomplish. So that's pretty nice. Let's see if previous works. That's also the enter key. So it seems that it depends on the support of the operating system. So some of the icons do work, some are not supported. So go is the check mark. And yeah, but it seems like the general functionality works, and probably by depending on the operating system, you get some of the values supported, some are not. So I guess things like previews and stuff like that will work on iOS, but not on Android, or not on this specific keyboard I have. So that's also possible. But the cool thing is that I'm able to test it on my mobile phone, so I could run the application using dev tunnels on my local device. And I can even test some other things like maybe devices. We have accelerometer there, so maybe I can test that. You can see that accelerometer readings are working because I'm on a mobile device which has them, so that's pretty cool. Let's shake. Shaking the phone changes the value. That's pretty nice. What do we have as well? Lamp. But that's not supported on WebAssembly, I think. So instead, light sensor. See if we get it or not. Let's run this. Okay, so if I put it against the light, I have bigger illuminance. So this works as well. That's pretty cool. Like previously or before dev tunnels, it was kind of hard to test on mobile devices. So it's a very welcome addition to Visual Studio. There were some plugins that you could use to test these without installing, without some special workarounds, but now that is built in, it's much easier to accomplish. So it's a very cool thing to do, and I definitely recommend you to try it out. It's built in and it's free to use. And there is actually a way to make the tunnel persistent, and you can control the access to make it only organizational or even public. So you could have a public beta test of your local application and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we've probably done all we needed, except for this WebAssembly specific. So I will do WASM so that it shows up only on WebAssembly. It is quite easy to do. Get rid of this and to get rid of these because they are not needed. And that should be it. Yeah. So to make things a little bit nicer before we make the PR, I will also add some documentation for the values. Nothing too important, but it's nice to have. Let's do it like that. Okay. I'm just copying the documentation from Mozilla Web Docs, MDN Docs. So next. Okay, and now this will be what is the suggestion? On the virtual keyboard. Enter key on the virtual keyboard. Okay, so that's this, and finally we should document the dependency property itself. Right. And one more thing, I remember that I did create this, but do I need it? Do I need... Right. Do I need a backing field? Actually, yes, because I want to know that for the default value, I don't want to call the set attribute at all. I want to ignore that. So it's necessary to have a nullable behind this, so I know if the value was set or not. So yes, that should be enough. So let me save this, and one last thing that's needed, and that's that we don't have at all, I think, even for the mobile targets, is to actually document these specific properties in documentation. So let's search for text box. Text box. We have specific documentation for text box, and we'll add a section for customizing the enter key appearance. Okay. And maybe some code sample would be nice. So C#. And let's do a small sample for iOS. So it's gonna be, what are the values of UI return key type? Search. Okay. Search. IME options. Again, let's search for the values. IME action search. And finally, text box, add the enter key hint, enter key hint, search, right? That was the search. Okay, so this would be a good enough example, I think, for this feature. So let's now commit everything. First off, let's commit our sample. So enter key hint sample. Next up, the implementation itself. And finally, the documentation. Right. That should be it. So I will now create that PR and we should be good to go. So this was quite a short live coding, but in actually 1 hour and 3 minutes, we were able to implement this new property for WebAssembly completely, along with a sample, documentation, and everything else. So that's pretty nice, I think. You know, it shows you that you can implement a pretty substantial or useful feature into UNO platform in a very short amount of time. So it's a great promise of that if you want to implement something or if you want to try out contributing to UNO platform, now is the best time to do so. So missing support for enter key hint in WebAssembly. And we should be all good. Just add these. No breaking changes. We have docs, we have UI tests, and that's it. So we are done. Actually, regarding contributing to UNO platform, now, if I think it was on the blog announced last week, UNO platform now offers a very cool new thing. And that's matching sponsorships for UNO platform contributors and employees. So if you contribute to UNO platform and then do a sponsorship of a project on GitHub, some public project, some public library that's maintained by open source developers, and send it to UNO platform, they will actually match your sponsorship. So that, you know, help sustain the open source ecosystem, and that's pretty cool, I think. So if you are thinking of contributing to UNO platform, now is even more incentive to do so, because if you do and you want to support some open source project, Uno platform will help you match that donation and sponsor that open source project as well. So that's pretty cool and pretty neat new thing. So yeah, that's a new announcement from last week, and it makes things very nice for open source development in the .NET and actually overall in GitHub, on GitHub. So that's cool, I think. So I think that's it from today's live coding, but I might be back during this week again, and in this same topic of contributing, I'm planning to do a series of live coding sessions where I will be going through the first steps of how to contribute to Uno platform. So it will be covering the basics of how to clone the repo, how to get everything set up, every dependencies, all the requirements for building Uno platform solution itself, and then how you can actually run the samples application that I've shown you during this session. So the samples app, and how to run it on different targets, so Android, iOS, WebAssembly, Skia, and everything. And then finally how the Uno platform solution is structured, and where are the key important parts like tests and UI tests, and the implementation of various features, and how to all make sense of all that in a more succinct manner. And the goal is to actually figure out all the important parts of contributing to Uno platform, because when we are done with this series of sessions, I'm planning to also take this all knowledge that I gather from these sessions and compress it in some kind of set of videos that will be published on YouTube. So there will be everything more in a more compressed version, and in a fully complete picture of how to contribute to Uno platform. Because I've done this before as a series of blog posts, but that's now outdated, and a lot of it has changed since. So it will be interesting to have it up to date, because it's gonna be useful not only for open source contributors but also for new joiners in the Uno platform team. So I think that would be nice, and I see that you would be looking forward to that as well. So that's cool. So thank you very much for joining today, and I will see you next time, probably during this week, and I will let you know when. So see you and have a great day and keep coding.